Hello, welcome in. We got an extra show for you this week. We're going to go over some of our week one reactions, kind of talk about what we saw for the first week of the football season. If you're watching this, Monday Night Football is probably still going. That is when we're recording this, so we don't have all the info on the Bears-Vikings game. The Vikings are looking a little rough. I was funny. We were just talking about JJ McCarthy, and then your JJ McCarthy QB1 thing popped up. He's got a little bit of a ways to go there, but we might
Sure
get there,
does.
man. But it was good to have some football back. So
Yeah, it was. I just feel like they haven't given him the
he'll get there.
best help. But yeah, I think he'll get there.
Like-
I heard on the broadcast, like I don't think he played. I think he played only a couple snaps in the preseason, which to me seems a little weird. But I get it. You don't want to get him injured and whatever. But
Yeah.
I think this is it's going to take him some time.
I think so too. He needs a minute. I mean, if you remember last year, it took none of the rookie quarterbacks threw a touchdown pass until like week 4 or something crazy. Like they looked pretty rough, and then all of a sudden, Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix and those guys started taking off. So we gotta be a little patient, but sometimes it's hard, right? We expect them to be great right away, and sometimes they're just not.
Yeah, it made me laugh when I saw that my JJ McCarthy QB1. I was like, uh-oh.
But so all right, so we gave some starts and sits last week. We're gonna try to hold ourselves accountable. We each gave 4 starts and 4 sits. 5 of our start sits recommendations were great from each of us. 3 of them. Let's talk about what happened. So I'll go on mine first. Jalen Waddle was my start for wide receiver. He got hurt, and the Dolphins got just absolutely run out of Indianapolis by the Colts. That was weird. It definitely did not foresee the Colts just being a defensive juggernaut, just making Miami look like they didn't belong in the NFL. That was crazy. Justin Fields was my QB sit of the week, and he ended up being my QB2 on the week, so that was my bad. I really thought Pittsburgh was going to have a better defense. Just goes to show we don't know everything, right? Going into the first week, some teams. That was the last game I expected to be a shootout, by the way.
Oh my gosh,
Steelers, but what are you going to do? And then Ricky Pearsall, whether by talent or by last man standing, he was my set of the week, and he ended up with a pretty good stat line. I think he went over 100 yards and like 7 catches.
Yeah.
And I think he got a Teddy in there too. So missed on that one, but we'll learn and we'll get better, and we'll go next week. Hard on some years.
Yeah, so same thing. Quarterback, I said Bo Nix, and I thought the Broncos their offense was gonna look a lot better, but kind of what you already touched on. I think it's gonna take some time for not everybody can be the Ravens and the Bills. Then Jags running back. So a couple things there. ETN got the majority of the carries, looked pretty good doing it. I know he had one big 70-yard run, but outside of that, he still had around 70 yards, so looked pretty darn good there. I think he's going to get the lion's share there. And they also just traded away Tank Bigsby to the Eagles, right? So outside of what we all thought, I think many people were like, oh, Tank Bigsby, but no, ETN's going to be the guy, and then they'll probably rotate in Tootin and LaQuint Allen. So,
yeah,
and then last,
go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was so surprised by that, and he was the second or third guy in there, and so, but he's really, really good catching the ball.
He's got a third down role locked up already, which is good.
Good and then I was completely wrong with Debo. Maybe he hasn't, completely lost a step, right? I mean, he was looking the same way back in, his typical 49ers role. They used him the same way, and obviously it was the Giants, but yeah, I was wrong there. So I'm, 3 out of 8, not bad. I mean, 5 out of 8, not bad. So one of these weeks we'll hit 8 out of 8.
Yeah, we will. Honestly, it was pretty good. That's a pretty good week. Like week 1, 2, like because you just don't know, right? What's going to happen, and so it can be tough. But we're going to hold ourselves accountable, and I think we're going to try to give good, actionable advice. And I think we did pretty good for week 1.
Yeah, totally.
All right, where do you want to start with some of these guys?
Yeah, so kind of just so everybody knows, we want to do this every week, give you guys some reactions on Monday or Tuesday morning, right? So you guys can go out and make trades, whatever. So we're going to run through some players, good, bad, indifferent. We kind of hit on the Jags running back already, but let's start there. ETN. Like I said, I think he's going to get the lion's share, right? And then they'll sprinkle in LaQuint Allen and Tootin. But outside of ETN, I have a couple guys on there as well. Trevor Lawrence didn't look too great. Brian Thomas was fine. I think that was more of Trevor, I think that was more of Trevor Lawrence. So yeah, what do you think about the Jags?
So Travis Etienne, right? Like he looked good. I was just looking. He had 50% of the team rush attempts, which is pretty good. He looked pretty good on those two. Like just under 20% of his he missed. He made a defender miss basically, whether it was running them over, juking them out. So that's good. Like you kind of want to see those kind of numbers. I thought he looked better than he has for a while, and I think he's finally healthy again. The Jaguars, like Trevor Lawrence, I thought he was okay, but he didn't put up like great numbers. I think he had some good and some bad. Brian Thomas, I want to say, didn't he have like 7 targets but only like one catch?
So
I feel like that's gonna correct itself. It just maybe like a weird thing where because the Panthers, I think J.C. Horn was kind of shadowing him, and he's just a really good corner, and so sometimes guys get locked down from time to time. I don't expect that to be a weekly thing, right? I think they'll kind of bounce back. They also got into like that was a weird game because I had that weather delay.
Yeah, I was gonna say
real out of sync, and
delays are rough, right? Think back on the Eagles and Cowboys after that, like the third and fourth quarter just were kind of ugly, right? So I think it totally messes things up. There was a delay, then they went into the halftime as well. So I just think, that's pretty rough there. But yeah, I agree with Brian Thomas Jr. should correct itself. I know 2 of them just were like, airmailed. So it's like really bad passes there. So I think that all that's going to get corrected. And, honestly, I think that offense is going to be good, right? But the guys you want, ETN, obviously Travis Hunter, he had a fine stat line. And then Brian Thomas Jr., right? But the biggest thing out of that is you want ETN out of that backfield. Coming into it, I said, you don't know who you want. You don't want any of them. But now we know ETN is going to be the guy. So I guess, kind of actionable after this is, if you were going to hit or miss on ETN, go ahead and fire him up in your lineups. And then also he could be a guy, when he has a down game here, I'm sure it will happen. That could be a guy that you could buy because he will get the majority of the snaps.
I was going to ask you, I know during the offseason, I was getting ETN for like late 2s a lot of the time. Would you go out? Do you feel good enough to go out and acquire him still? Or are you just kind of, if you have him, you're kind of holding them right now?
Yeah. So right now, I don't like to go out and buy after a high, like a spike week, right? So I would say right now, you're going to have to like buy up. You're going to have to pay up for him. But like I said, there probably is going to be a down game or whatever. And people are like, oh, here we go again, ETN. But I think, from the eye test, it looked really good. You're looking at the stats, he looked good, right? And I think overall, they're going to play, the offense is going to be good. And so you're going to want to have ETN, if I could get him for a second right now, an equivalent player, I would definitely do that. But right now I feel like you're going to have to pay up and you probably can't get him for less than a first, right? To be like, oh, he was RB 2 or 3 on the week. I want the most.
I will say, I think now might be a nice time to buy Tootin if you're going to.
Yeah.
You still believe in Tootin. Like he basically didn't play a ton.
Yeah.
I think he was kind of the 4th back in the rotation, but I still think they like him. I think he'll get in eventually. It's just, it's probably later in the season. And I think sometimes, fantasy managers, a lot of times we get very impatient and it's like, oh, you didn't.
Oh yeah.
Succeed right away. Like I don't want to deal with you. And you might be able to get him for like a late 2, early 3 at this point. Cause I think people might be a little bit like, oh, damn it. Like, it's ETN's backfield, but I think they'll rotate guys in. And if you remember last year, like Bucky Irving didn't take off till later in the season too. So I think kind of most of the rookies we got to be patient with. We'll get into a couple that we don't need to be patient with because they were freaking awesome right away. Like I think the next name on the list was Emeka Egbuka, which I believe that was your start of the week at wide receiver.
It was, so I think it was kind of Yeah, I was gonna say kind of an easy one, but like
Yeah.
they played the Falcons. Their defense isn't too great, but they like if you watch the game, they started a little bit slow, but he had what 70, I think around 70 yards and 2 touchdowns, right? So the
Hmm.
yards were there, the touchdowns were there. Like he is going to operate as that wide receiver too, and so Mike Evans is going to get the top corner. So then I think he's going to have some favorable matchups. So like over the next couple weeks before Chris Godwin comes back, he's a lock and loaded start every week. I think unless he draws a very very tough matchup, I think you can comfortably play Egbuka and outside of like he was the hottest name, and I think he's going to continue being scorching hot. So you're not going to be able to get him. You're going to feel bad on any trade that
Yeah.
you made of moving him. Like I moved him for Devonta Smith. It doesn't feel
Oh, that
good,
sucks.
but
Yeah.
that you ride and die with those things, right? And so, but yeah, it was really cool to see Egbuka is kind of who we thought he was, right?
He is who we thought he was, and he's a freaking stud. I like Ibuka. More importantly, I think Baker likes Ibuka, which is awesome.
Exactly. Yep.
Um, One of the next games I wanted to get into the Jets.
Yeah.
That offense looked fantastic.
Yep.
Brees Hall, I think uh, his demise was greatly exaggerated, right? He
Whew.
actually looked quite good. They did rotate in 3 backs, though. I will
Yeah.
say that, like they did rotate them a healthy amount, but you know what? They ran the hell out of the football.
Yep.
They really established it, which you like to see. Justin Fields looked great. I think he threw 2 touchdown passes to Garrett Wilson. Garrett Wilson had like an ungodly target percentage. I think it was like up at like 40 something percent. Let me see if I can pull it up here. 44%
Yeah.
target share, which is just fantastic. Probably not sustainable, but still awesome to see. It's
Well,
awesome to see him get
I,
touchdowns, but also like,
I
well, go ahead.
yeah, I was gonna say is like with Garrett Wilson, I think I don't think it's out of the realm to see that week after week because after him, I
Sure.
mean, I know Mason Taylor will get worked in a little bit more than what he did, but he's all they got at wide receiver. I know they're gonna run the ball a ton, but when they need
Hmm.
to throw the ball, they're gonna go to Garrett Wilson. And so for me, I think he's gonna outperform kind of where he was going and what others got. Like
Yeah,
this Jets offense is going to be a lot better than kind of I don't know what we thought, but like it's going to be fun. And I think
I think
Reese is
so.
going to have some up and down games. He's got to really. I think the biggest thing with him is he has to kind of take advantage of those reps that he has, or those targets that he gets and touches he gets. Because they are gonna rotate in running backs. Aaron Glenn came from the Lions. They rotate running backs in. So I think we're
Hmm.
going to see a little bit of that as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the offense looks. It's just it goes along like to show you that like coaching means so much in the NFL. Like having a competent coaching staff and like an actual like team, they look so much different, like night and day. I
Yeah.
know they lost to the Steelers, but they were in that game. They very easily could have won. I think that
Yeah.
the culture is definitely coming around there, which
That's
is
what
good to see.
that's what I was going to hit on. Yeah, the culture you could just tell just from week one. Like Aaron Glenn, great coach, right? He was awesome on the Detroit
The Lions.
Lions,
Hmm.
and just we're seeing it right away. We'll get to the Lions later on, but kind of the opposite of that, we're seeing kind of some struggles there in Detroit. But on the other side, Aaron Rodgers, I know the numbers he looked pretty good. I think what's really inflating that is the 4 touchdowns, though.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, well, let's pull up a stat line here before I just talk out of
It was
nothing.
like I think it was like
Um,
23 for 30,
22
200
for
and something
30,
yards.
244, and 4 touchdowns. Obviously, the 4 touchdowns aren't going to happen every game, right? But
Yeah,
a 73% completion percentage is nothing to scoff at, right? I think the touchdowns will probably come down. Interestingly enough, the touchdowns went to like so Jalen Warren caught one, Ben Skoranek, shout out Notre Dame, Johnny Smith caught one,
yep,
Calvin Austin also caught one too. Like interesting enough, it wasn't DK Metcalf.
I
Um,
know. Sadly,
Sadly, DK had a pretty good game though, and he
he
looked
did.
pretty good. He also had that weird catch. I don't know if you saw it, where he like
I did.
hobbled it, like bounced off 2 guys, and it came right
Yeah.
back to him, which
Yep.
was pretty crazy. Yeah, Rogers.
Yeah.
I
So
think it, I think he's going to be good. I think he's going to be more of like a QB2
Yep.
throughout this season. And I think if you bought him as a contender, you're probably stoked, right? And super flex leagues, I think he's going to be fine. But I wouldn't expect 4 touchdown games out of him every week. I just don't think that's realistic. I don't think the Steelers are going to get into a ton of shootouts.
Yeah. And I also think the Steelers running backs kind of were underwhelming, right? So they needed Aaron Rodgers to throw more, right? So I think when they're not in a shootout, the running backs are going to be a little bit better. I'm a little worried off like that Warren wasn't really the main guy, but I think it all goes back to that shootout. There's a lot of scoring. But ultimately, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be serviceable, right? He'll be really good for anybody that is a contender, needs him as your QB2, or if he's on your bench and as your third quarterback, and put him in as on a bye week or something. So that was a surprise for me. Like, obviously we kind of know who he is, but I just felt like he did a little bit better than we thought. Like the numbers look fine. But of course, I think the touchdowns are inflating that a little bit more. But I would expect around 200 yards and 1 or 2 touchdowns a week.
Yeah, I think that's much more reasonable. The other thing I want to touch on that Pittsburgh game, the Steelers running back rotation was weird. I did not expect Kenneth Gainwell to be the top snap. He was on the snaps. He outsnapped the rest of the running back room. 29 to Jalen Orange 25. Caleb Johnson only got in on 2 offensive snaps. I think he also fumbled a kick return, which is weird that he was returning kicks to begin with. Pulling his best Kyron Williams impression there. Doing kick returns. I feel like the Kenneth Gainwell thing, I wouldn't overreact to that. I think that was a product of they got into a weird game script where they had to just do a shootout.
Yeah.
I would expect Jalen Warren to kind of pace that backfield moving forward. But
kind of the same thing, kind of conversely with Aaron Rodgers is like if you think of the Steelers, they're run first, right? It's obviously going to change now that they have Aaron Rodgers. But I do think, since they were in a shootout, right, they kind of had to go away from the run, right? So, I think Jalen Warren's going to be just fine. Still the running back you want. I think obviously Caleb Johnson wasn't good, but we kind of already knew that with him being kind of buried a little bit on the depth chart. He will probably be more involved as we go along the year. Yeah. And so this will kind of, work itself out. Warren, you still want, in my opinion. So, but yeah, I like the main thing is like Rodgers is going to be serviceable. So if you have him, you're going to probably start him and feel good about it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I want to move on to the Colts Dolphins, just absolute shellacking. Props to Daniel Jones. I think we talked about Daniel Jones and mentioned that like he actually might have been a good play this week.
Yep.
I even saying that, I didn't expect this from him. I mean,
totally.
He was dropping dimes, dude. Like some of those throws were ridiculous.
And they scored on every offensive play.
They didn't punt in the whole first half, did they?
Yeah. Which is
nuts, dude.
I think he obviously exceeded all expectations, right? But like I said, I think I'm still on the train of trying to move him, right? Any first little hiccup, right, of the Colts, they're riding high right now. I still think he is a guy that you want to try to move. So I guess my question for you is, would you take a second for him?
Daniel Jones?
Or do you just hold at this point? The problem I feel like is, if you can get a second now, I think it obviously depends on, where you're at, so I think it really will depend, kind of who they play next week. But in my opinion, I kind of still want to be out on Daniel Jones versus in. But
So
who do they play?
Here's their next couple of games. They play home against the Broncos, who is a good secondary, good defense. And they play at Tennessee, who actually has a surprisingly pretty good defense looking. And then the Rams on the road. So their next 3 games.
So move him.
I'm out. Yeah. I would take. I think the Dolphins might make everybody look good. Mike McDaniel might not make it through this season, like unless they drastically improve. They look just lost, even from like the get-go when the game was still in hand. They just didn't look like they were invested in that game. Like they just looked out of sync. Like the team just wasn't there. Man, I don't know. I Would not be surprised if he's the first coach that is let go this season. They just looked
Yep.
out of sorts. Tua looked bad. I'd say the only
Yep.
one that actually looked good was Achane. Like he's the only reason they scored, and which was a horrendous play call. It was like on a 4th and 11, and they threw like a screen pass to him out, and he just like ran over like 4 dudes. So good for Devon Achane. That Dolphins offense is nasty, and I am sad that I have so much Jalen Waddle, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think Waddle will be fine because for me, I think he has a good head on his shoulders, right? I think there's going to be a lot of I think Achane, Waddle are still fine. I think we still need to kind of see a little bit more on what what happens with his injury and things like that. So for me, it's kind of put a pin in that and kind of wait till we see a little bit more. But yeah, unfortunately, I think with Waddle, we're going to see a lot of that, injuries here and there. So that's just kind of what happens with Waddle. I felt like maybe we could eventually move on from that, but unfortunately, it is what it is.
Before we move on from this game, I gotta talk about Tyler Warren. Dude had himself a game. 9 targets, 7 receptions, 76 yards, no touchdowns, but I mean that was fantastic. He was as good as advertised. I think he helped that offense move a ton. I am curious to see what he does, and really with all the rookies, right? Like sometimes rookies and guys in week 1 that have big games, I'm curious to see how they look, week 2 and 3 as NFL defenses get tape on them, kind of adjust to what their offenses are doing. If he continues to have that, then all of a sudden he's up with like Brock Bowers and Trey McBride is, one of the top tight ends in Dynasty, right? Like, he's a guy too. Like I think that the ship has sailed for trying to acquire him at any kind of reasonable price. It's just not going to happen, but dude, he was impressive. He looked good, man. He made that whole Colts offense, I think, just function in a way that they just haven't in previous years, which is exciting to see.
So I was just reacting to the game here. It's a total flip. The Vikings are now ahead, and I'm one catch away from a bag builder on DraftKings. If you haven't done that yet, do it. It's fun. I put in I think I had like 6 free ones, so I was really bad on all 6 except one of them. I need one more catch from Aaron Jones with 6 minutes left, so we'll see here. But yeah, I mean, one big takeaway from the game here is I think it's flipped for running backs. Since we're talking about it, I think Jordan Mason is their clear running back 1. It's probably going to change, but he does look like their running back 1.
I mean, just looking, he's basically doubled up on touches from Aaron Jones to Jordan Mason, which shout out to Greg, one of our patrons. He made a trade earlier this offseason where he basically, everyone kind of thought maybe he spent up too much to get Jordan Mason in a trade. I forget the exact trade details, but looking better and better. So shout out Greg if you're listening. That was a good call, man.
All right, we did this way out of order, but next game we want to hit on our Cowboys Eagles. Very fun game. Biggest takeaway for me, too, Javonte Williams and A.J. Brown. We obviously hit on those separately, but Javonte Williams, man, I think if you look at it from the eye test, from the eye test, he looked, typical Javonte Williams, kind of slow and whatever, but he took what he got and he was very productive, right? So 2 short touchdowns. I think there was like a 1-yard touchdown and 2-yard touchdown. And then he got up to 40 yards. I think the biggest thing with him is there's nobody else behind him. Miles Sanders had that one big run, but got caught. And then also he had a huge fumble. So for me, like there's nobody else there unless they go out and sign somebody or trade for somebody. So for me, Javonte Williams is it until otherwise.
Yeah, Jadon Blue was out. I think he was hurt, and so he was a scratch. But and then Miles Sanders obviously fumbling didn't help his cause. That was the thing with Javonte, was like he had almost 70% of the rush attempts in that game, which was that. I mean, for context, that was 6th in the league, behind only Chase Brown, Tony Pollard, Ashton Jeanty, Josh Jacobs, Kyren Williams. The thing that stands out there is like he wasn't credited with a single missed tackle forced. He also didn't have any run longer than 10 yards. So like not great. I will say the way they used them though, because I went back and I watched. I was curious. I was like, okay, was this just like he just fell in the end zone, kind of, but also like the way they ran them. They ran them a lot inside, just kind of up the gut of the defense, which you're just
Alert,
naturally not going to
alert,
get.
alert,
Did
alert.
Aaron Jones catch the
Aaron
ball?
Jones just caught the ball, the third
Let's
one. Let's
go,
go.
dude.
All right. So the biggest thing with this bag builder is I have no idea what the cut's going to be, but
But we're
it's
gonna
going to be
find out,
fun. It's
baby.
fun to find
Let's
out. Let's
go.
go. All right.
Let's go.
Anyways, but yeah, Javonte Williams. I mean, so there
Yeah.
was a lot of fun talk
Okay.
in our Discord, but if you take it from the eye test, not good. But I think what you got to take away is,
Like,
opportunity is huge, right? And so I'm not gonna say and go out and buy Javonte Williams. Also, I would hold on to him. Don't move him, because you're not gonna get anything more than a second, right? Or a second and a third or whatever, right? So for me, he's a hold, and also don't move off of him.
like he scored 2 touchdowns against one of the best defenses in the NFL. Like that's not nothing, right? Like the Eagles are a good defense. I will say like yes, he didn't look like amazing, but he didn't look bad. And it should be a good offense. He should have opportunities to score at the goal line, right? I'm sure at some point Jaden Blue might come in and start taking some of the volume away, but as long
Totally.
as he maintains some of that short yardage goal line work, he'll have value, right? And so like next week too, he plays the Giants and they got ran all over by Washington.
Yeah.
So I would assume Dallas could do it again, and Javonte should be in for a decent game.
Yeah.
AJ
But
Brown, well, go ahead, finish your
no,
thought.
that's what I was gonna say. It's like I think it's gonna be week after week, right? And if he has another good week, I would look into their schedule, and maybe after week 2 is the time to pivot, right? And see if you can get something from him, because I do expect another good game out of Javonte
Yeah.
Williams. And before we move off of the Cowboys, Dak looked good. Unfortunately, CD had 2 big drops. I don't expect that to happen, every week. CD is very good. I expect him to, fix some things and be just fine. But Dak I think that offense is going to be very good, and it's going to, we're going to get a lot from Dak this year.
I think so too. I think Dak looks pretty good. I think we kind of expected that passing offense to look good. I will say on the Eagles side of things, I was very surprised that the passing attack just looks out of sync. And I think, they talked about it on the broadcast, but it felt like the Cowboys really were just focusing on taking away Hurts's like first read and just making him not beat you with like AJ Brown or Devontae Smith, and they basically took those away. As like Dallas Goedert had, I think he led the team in targets and receptions. I don't expect that to happen every week. AJ Brown was held basically targetless and catchless until I think it was the final drive of the game where he kind of got that first down to seal the
give me
game.
like
But
12-yard or whatever.
I expect better days ahead. I think that was just a schematic thing they did to kind of take away their top targets. I don't think every team has the corners to do that like Dallas did. So potentially a chance to buy low on AJ Brown if you have some managers that are maybe panicking. I think that's a mistake. I think AJ Brown's still fantastic, and I think he's in for a good season still, even though he got off to a disappointing week 1.
Yep. Sorry for turning, but that was a nice 14-yard rush by JJ McCarthy for a touchdown. Big turnaround. JJ McCarthy. I think
JJ McCarthy QB1 season's alive. Let's go.
Yeah, I think the biggest takeaway there is like, I understand not to play your starters, but if they win the game, it won't matter. But like he had no touches. Like he didn't play at all last year because of injury. Like give the guy at least a quarter or something, right?
In the preseason.
In the preseason. But obviously I'm not a head coach, so I'm not going to, question what they do. But yeah, no, I would say the biggest thing as well is like they took it away. The Eagles, the Cowboys took away his first read, but like they were running all over the Cowboys. So like, I don't think they expect that to happen every week. But unfortunately, they do have Saquon, who's, the second best running back in my opinion right now, maybe lower, but one of the top 5 running backs. And then Hurts was also really, really good on the ground, right? So if that's going well, if their running game is going really well, unfortunately, which we kind of know, somebody is going to be left out. Unfortunately, week 1 it was AJ Brown, but I don't expect it to happen week after week.
Same. The Raiders had Ashton Genty make his debut. He was the 6th overall pick. He did score a touchdown. That was the good. The bad, 19 rushes for 38 yards. And get this, he had 44 yards after contact. So he had more yards after contact than he had total yards. That is not
Not good.
that's ungood, as Reese Davis says on ESPN. I think the Patriots sold out to stop the run, right? They just didn't want Genty in the run game to beat him. The counterpoint there is Geno threw for like 300 something yards, which was crazy. The Patriots too on the other side of the ball, they didn't really get a lot going. Drake May, I think his stat line ended up looking okay, but not a lot of touchdowns. Not a lot of the receivers were kind of out of sorts. Keishon Butte looked good. He was probably the highlight there. He led the team in targets with 8 targets, and he went over 100 yards. If he's
surprised by me,
receiver though, like
yeah,
well, I don't know. You might be in for a rough one.
I don't know how I forgot to add any of the Patriots, but maybe just because they were pretty gross. But I think
gross game.
Yeah, it was not good. Unfortunately, I think right now, like even including Drake May, is like I don't feel comfortable starting any Patriot outside of TreVeyon Henderson. And I think TreVeyon Henderson is going to be very matchup dependent, because he was fine. I think he had like 70 something total yards out of rushing and catching. So I think that was fine. But again, I just think they don't have any pass catchers. Stephon Diggs is clearly washed. So I just think like Kyle Williams is probably their best wide receiver, using best as a loose term there. So for me, it's like Drake May, it's unfortunately going to be rough for a little bit, but I do expect Vrabel to kind of turn it around here. So I would say give it a couple weeks, but over the next couple weeks, I only feel good with Henderson starting out of that offense.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what Keishon Butte, if he's like a thing or if that's just like a week one, like just blast that happened there. I think the bigger thing that happened in this game too is Brock Bowers left the game with a knee injury. It sounds like he's going to be okay. It sounds like he avoided anything like serious, and I think Pete Carroll called him day to day. Now Pete Carroll is also notoriously very he calls everyone day to day. It could be like dude could be out for 2 months and he's day to day, or he could be literally back on Wednesday. So we'll see. That's one to monitor the practice reports to see what he looks like, but.
It's a big,
it was nothing serious, but
it's a big miss if they do lose him. But I think Michael Mayer would be a nice fill in there. So keep an eye out.
Michael Mayer looked good.
He's just in a unfortunate situation where they just like Brock Bowers kind of, I wouldn't say fell to them, but like you can't pass on a player like Brock Bowers. So I think Mayer's just unfortunate. I do think he'll be like, even if Bowers didn't get injured, I think they're still going to use him. But keep an eye out there. We had another big injury with George Kittle. I think he's going to be out for, anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks. So Michael Mayer could be a good target to go out and get. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but Fannin could be a good tight end to go out and get for cheap. I don't know how cheap actually, because he had a great game. But yeah, just keep an eye out for Brock Bowers. You're not going to get much from Pete Carroll, but just see. We should get some better information, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah. All right. Now raise your hand if you had Harold Fannin leading the Browns in targets week 1. And if you have your hand up, you're a dirty liar or you're his family. So
yeah,
I don't know.
So I am extremely surprised by that because the only reason why is because I would think it would be more Njoku, but it doesn't. It's not crazy to me just because it's Joe Flacco and he peppers the tight end. So and also I've talked about it before. I think you have as well. It's like none of their wide receivers are that good, right? So Jerry Jeudy's okay, but in my opinion, none of those wide receivers are very good. I know Tillman scored a touchdown, but I think for me, like Njoku and Fannin are the top receiving threats. I know they're both tight ends, but to me, those are the top 2 guys. And so for me, Njoku and Fannin are almost like Fannin's close to a must start as well. I know it's tough to say that with him being kind of the backup tight end, but I think with how he plays, he's more of a receiving tight end than anything.
Yeah, I mean Fannin. Let's see, he lined up in the slot 41% of his snaps. So I mean, he basically he played like he was their third receiver and kind of out of the slot. I think he's one that I'm probably one of the most intrigued of. Like, okay, is this like a flash in the pan, or is this like is he an actual like threat or receiving threat on this offense?
Yeah.
Also, it was against Cincinnati, who isn't exactly known for their defense too. So let's see what happens there. But definitely a good like. Fannin was a guy I liked pre-draft. Then he kind of
Yep.
didn't get the draft capital that we wanted, and then he kind of sunk down. But he's a good player. He didn't test well at the combine, but he's a good player.
He's a very good. Yeah.
What about on the Cincinnati side of the ball?
Whew, they looked horrendous, right?
They won.
I felt so good with a couple of my, prop bets with like, Jamar Chase. Of course, he's going to score a touchdown. That's all he does, right? But the guy had, I think it was like close to 20 yards, and just the offense looked horrendous in the second half. They're very lucky to win that game. So obviously there's going to be better days ahead, but they may be worse than we thought, right? They were really bad on defense last year, but I think that whole team is just kind of rough right now. I'm hoping it was kind of a miss there, right? They just bad game, week 1 vibes. But for me, that's somewhere I'm gonna look and kind of watch closely on the next game.
That offensive line got their ass handed to them by Cleveland. And I know Cleveland has a good defensive line, but like you gotta protect Joe Burrow better than that. Like, and same with Chase Brown. Like, I know he scored a touchdown, but like it was no thanks to his offensive line. He basically did it all himself on that, which was it was quite impressive. The run itself. Go check it out if you haven't seen it. It was a good run, but
yeah,
like, my God, dude, it was bad.
And Joe Burrow almost died. Myles Garrett just destroyed him. So he's not going to be playing the best defensive player in the game every week. Of course, he has one more matchup against the Browns. So, and obviously a divisional game, they usually play pretty close and they're rough. So it's tough to start, that out. But I'm still worried about this offense. I need to see a little bit more. Like I think it was -1 yards or something like that in the second half. Don't quote me on that, but it was bad. And so I expect better Joe Burrow and Higgins and Jamar Chase. And so to me, it was just, not good. But yeah, I think the Browns have a good defense, right? So that's tough.
They did. They get Jacksonville next week at home, so we'll see. Jacksonville looked decent against Carolina, but we'll see. Obviously, the Bengals offense is a bit of a step up from Bryce Young and the
so I would really hope that they can get right next week. Not to say that the Jaguars are bad or whatever, but I think they should get right next week.
And I mean, they did win, right? Like, and that was probably one of their worst games. And although Cleveland really helped them out with a missed extra point, and I think they missed a field goal
and a missed field goal. Yep.
Yeah, and 2 interceptions from receivers just juggling the ball. So Cleveland did themselves no favor, but man, we'll see.
We will see. But yeah, that one for me is like, you expect big things out of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and T. Higgins.
You do.
So it's tough, right?
So Ron's not here tonight, but his Lions, I'm sure he would have some colorful words for how they looked. They basically just got annihilated up front, just absolutely dominated. The Packers D line just gave it to them handily. And I know they had some turnover on the O line. They have obviously Ben Johnson isn't there anymore. Aaron Glenn's gone. I think they're going to be fine. I don't want to overreact, but I think they just it's not going to look the same as it did last year, right? Like it's not going to be the best offense in football. I think they're going to take some time. The offensive line, even if the O line's good, like when you replace 2-3 starters on the O line, like it takes a minute to kind of gel and get things going. So I think they will be okay. Just they had a tough draw going, playing a divisional opponent on the road week 1. After they just got Micah Parsons on the Green Bay side of thing, right? So I'm not really panicking. I I don't know. Like I wouldn't like panic sell any of these guys. I will say
Agreed.
like Jared Goff makes me a little nervous.
Rome TD.
Oh,
But yeah, so I'm with you 100%. Like, the Lions looked really bad, but it's tough, right? Losing those coordinators, losing the offensive line. So they only had 46 total rushing yards, which is not something we see out of the Detroit Lions. Like they still have the same head coach. They still have,
yeah.
the
Same
the
offensive
same
system.
yeah, backbone, I was going to say. And so I think the biggest thing is that offensive line is different. It's going to take a little bit of time. But one bright spot was Laporta, 79 yards, six
You
catches.
look good. Yeah.
So he did look good. I'm hoping that's more to see. A little bit concerning, but this is back to the offensive line. Gibbs had 10 receptions for 31 yards. That's pretty rough, right? But he caught all his targets, which is nice. But again, I think
That's a PPR monster is what that is.
yeah, I still think it's bad. And the main issue there is that offensive line. I do expect that to correct things. But I will say one thing: the Packers are a very, very good team. Their defense is great. Their offense is really good as well. So that's a tough draw in the beginning. Divisional games, like I said, always play very close. Play tough, so you don't you're not going to have these huge games out of players. So one thing I will say with the Packers is we're not going to know who is going to be the guy to catch or to play. Unfortunately, Romeo Dobbs is the annoying fly that doesn't go away. They love him there.
Dude, Jordan Love loves Romeo Dobbs.
Yeah. Luckily, Jaden Reed had a touchdown, kind of save his day. Tucker Kraft had a touchdown to save his day. So honestly, I would say Tucker Kraft is the main guy you want, right? I know Matthew Golden will probably get up to speed and be a little bit better. Only had 2 targets. But like Tucker Kraft is only, competing against Luke Musgrave, and we know Tucker Kraft is much, much better. So he's the like you don't have to really worry about which tight end should I play. No, you can play Tucker Kraft and feel good about it. But really, we're gonna have to look more into kind of how it plays out with these wide receivers. But it's gonna be tough to pick the right one, I feel like.
Yeah, and the Packers play Thursday night football at home against the Commanders, so it should be a good game.
Yep.
We'll get to see. Sometimes those Thursday night games are gross for fantasy scoring, at least. And
Yeah.
so we'll see what happens. But
I
at
think
least the Packers being at home, you generally can start those guys.
Totally. Yeah. Josh Jacobs, of course, is the main guy there, right? I feel really good about that. Like, he had 66 yards and a touchdown. So super good there. I'm glad he got in the end zone. I was a little worried there.
Yeah, the touchdown kind of saved his fantasy day for sure.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, biggest takeaways here from this game is like just be patient with the Lions. I think they will be fine. And then Green Bay for me is going to be very, very good. But unfortunately, receiving wise, it's going to be tough to kind of pick the correct wide receiver week after week.
I agree. Heading out west to Seattle, they played the San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco had a bunch of injuries. I know Kittle got hurt. I know we touched on that. Jawan Jennings, I think he got banged up in that game too. Sounds like Brock Purdy's questionable for this week too because he banged up like a couple things on his injury report I saw. But in Seattle, I really wanted to focus on the running back room, right? Like Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker, they got a pretty healthy split, I would say. I think we had kind of heard this narrative a lot out of Seattle that they wanted to get Charbonnet more involved. And I think this coaching staff actually meant it. Charbonnet looked good. I think Kenneth Walker looked kind of bad this game.
He did.
I think that's kind of like, I think he played worse than he's going to, right? I think he's had a bad game. I think he's still going to be fine. He's probably the one that, like, if people are scared, I would go out and try to acquire him. I think you could probably get him for, dude, I don't know what, like maybe a couple twos might get the job.
Oh, done. Easily, I think, right? Because I think a lot of people are out on him. The last, I saw a stat, the last 5 or 6 games, he is yards per carry. I know it's a ambiguous stat, but still tells a little bit of the story. But it's below 2 yards, I think. So not good. Right. But I think he hasn't been right for a little while. A lot of injuries, lingering injuries. But yeah, I think takeaway from here is I wouldn't go out and buy Charbonnet, but I think you could get. I think you can get Ken Walker pretty cheap. Let me pull up Dynasty Daddy to see any recent trades and get you some real time trades here. But yeah, like I think Ken Walker is the better player, but I just think this week Charbonnet did better with his touches, right? So if you're just looking at the stats, you're going to be
he
like,
got the touchdown, right?
Yeah,
That's really what
Charbonnet looks way better, yards per carry, better. He had a touchdown, whatever, right? I think it's going to be like from looking at it, I think it's going to be a pretty close to even split. So it's just going to depend, and hopefully, Kenneth Walker does a little bit better with his touches, which I think he will. So I think there will be kind of an up and down year with Kenneth Walker. If he can stay healthy, though, I would say buy the dip.
Definitely buy the dip. I think Ken Walker's going to be fine. I think they play Pittsburgh this next week. Who, the Jets just kind of ran on them quite a bit. So I wouldn't be too concerned. I think you might be looking at a nice bounce back. So maybe this week, if you can try to acquire some Kenneth Walker before he has a good game, that might be kind of the play there.
Couple of them here: Kenneth Walker for Tyrone Tracy and a 2. I'm good with that.
Basically 2
I know. Yeah, we didn't hit on the Giants at all, but I think Tyrone Tracy is the guy to have there. But at that rate, I just want the better player, right? So I know that might sound a little crazy, but I just want the better player there. Kenneth Walker for Jaylen Warren and a 2, same thing. I just want the better player. I know Jaylen Warren is going to be solid out of Pittsburgh, but Caleb Johnson is. We know we're kind of haters here, but he's there, right? And they drafted him in the 2nd, so he's going to be used once he gets up to speed and things. So again,
never underestimate Arthur Smith's ability to F up a backfield is the other thing there.
And then, I don't know how cheap Kenneth Walker is really. Those 2 I like, but these 2 back here is Kenneth Walker for a 26-1, Kenneth Walker for a 26-1. I personally don't think
I'm out at that price, but
yes, I'm with you. Right. So
if I can get it for 2 I would.
Yeah, I think it just depends. Like you can go out and try to buy him on a cheaper, if it's a 2, I'm good. For a 1, I wait a little bit. He might have one more mediocre game and then the price will go down even more.
I agree. Any last minute thoughts on any of the games or players that we didn't touch on that you thought maybe you wanna bring
up? So I do gotta say I was wrong about our good friend Bill. He had a solid game, right? He got, obviously it was one kind of long run that resulted in a touchdown, but I think he is obviously now the games have started. It doesn't really matter where they're drafted. I was kind of still holding on to that. Hey, he was drafted in the 7th round. But I think Eckler, unfortunately, is older, right? So I saw he got the questionable tag, so he's a little bit banged up already.
Always.
But I think it's going to be kind of a lot of up and down with Bill. But the biggest takeaway for me out of Washington was Debo. I know I talked about it a little bit on my starts and sits, but I said to sit Debo, and he looked pretty good. I don't know if that will happen every week, but if they use him that way, he's going to be playable. I'm
one of our patrons sent me a trade for it was a package, but it involved Debo, and I was like, I don't want Debo. And then watching the game, I was like, damn it, I really should have taken that. That was a good trade. Kicking myself a little bit. One thing we didn't touch on was Cam Ward. His stat line wasn't good, but I thought he looked better than the stat line showed. That he had a live arm. His receivers did him no favors. They dropped a ton of balls. There was one, I don't know if you saw, where they were running like a little bubble screen and all 3 receivers out on the side tried to block, and so he had a dirt ball one because like no one knew where they were supposed to get the ball, and it's like, for the love of God, dude, like help your dude out.
I'm kind of worried about that team, right? The coach missed on a big challenge that he should have challenged. It was clearly a catch. I just think they didn't draw up good plays for him, right? Obviously Broncos defense is solid, but they were in the game the whole game, right? And they just didn't give Cam Ward any help whatsoever. So I think he will be fine. But I still stand on he's going to be a good quarterback in the NFL, but I just think he's going to be mediocre for fantasy terms. He'll have some good games. But I just think overall he's going to be kind of like mediocre for fantasy. But yeah, I think the biggest thing is that the receivers, like you said, gave him no help whatsoever, and they didn't really, draw up a good game plan for a rookie quarterback. Obviously that's tough against a good defense, but give him some break. I give him some help. I thought the first play was really good. Tony Pollard took it for, I think, 25, 30 yards, and that was good. Just keep doing that, right? Like, I don't get why
they never gave him the ball back after that. They never threw any to Tony Pollard. I don't know what happened.
Clearly, like, I'm not a coach, right? Whatever, but like, I don't know why they kind of have to big brain these things. Just make things easy for these new quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it's not going to get any easier for Tennessee next week. They play at home against the Rams, who has a great defensive line, so it might be dicey.
Yeah,
but
that's one game we didn't touch on. I think both offenses looked gross. I think
Puka looked good.
Yeah, Puka looked good. I think the Rams will get better. Obviously, Stafford didn't play at all in the preseason. He had the issues with his back. So the more practice he gets in, the better they will get. They got bailed out by their defense. They probably should have lost that game, but their defense is very, very good. But yeah, like we said, CJ Stroud would struggle, and that's because of that Rams defense. So I would be cautious playing any of your quarterbacks against the Rams until there is a possible injury on the Rams.
Especially if their offensive line's questionable, which it is the case in Houston. They looked just bad. I think we kind of thought they were going to be bad, but like even Nico Collins didn't really get a ton of targets or touches. That was a little more concerning. I definitely want to see. That's a situation I'm monitoring. Obviously, I'm not going to panic sell Nico Collins. He's still good, but like if Houston's getting kind of pushed around up front like that, like that might be a problem.
Yeah, and I think the biggest issue there is they don't have anybody to run the ball. Like Nick Chubb had a couple of good runs, but he's old. I mean, and so
kind of a plotter.
Unfortunately, unfortunately, with a really bad offensive line, no running back, you're not going to get any help there. So it's definitely going to be matchup dependent there with Houston. So kind of what we talked about. But I think a lot of it will be fine. Take the time, right? It's week 1, but there are plenty of actionable things here, right? I made a trade. I felt like it's a total hype trade. I might regret it with Fannin because I like Fannin a lot, but I had to do it. Kayshon Boutte and Harold Fannin for Chuba Hubbard.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I liked it a lot too. I don't really have any running backs, so I felt like that was really, really good. I didn't start either of Boutte or Fannin, so I have Kraft and also a couple other tight ends that I'm feeling pretty good about. So yeah, I think like those are the type of trades you want to try to get done, right? If you can get somebody to kind of pay up on the hype, then you should be able to get some good deals done.
100%. I like that a lot. Yeah, and Boutte and Fannin both fit that bill, right? They both had probably career games. Well, I mean, Fannin obviously it was his only game, but still.
Yeah. No, still. I mean, I got you. Like the second or the first week that there's a quarterback change, those tight ends are like anybody on Cleveland is like, so I maybe might have lost a little bit on Fannin, but I feel much better about Chuba than either of those players. So
yeah,
those are the type of trades I think early in the season you want to try to capitalize on.
And Chuba, we didn't touch on, but I mean, he had a 64% of the rush attempts in Carolina. That no one's really threatening his workload in Carolina, and they ran the ball pretty well. I think Carolina's going to have better days. They just had a rough week 1, so I like that trade quite a bit.
Yep.
All right.
I think one last little thing we didn't talk about: Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen, Chargers. They looked really, really good.
Oh yeah.
I moved some Quentin Johnston already. I got a second and a third for him. I think I moved him. I had 3 shares. I think I moved 2 of them. So I think maybe he's going to be better this year, but I also think they threw the ball a ton and a lot more than they typically will. I think it's going to take a little bit of time for Hampton to get up to speed. But for me, the biggest takeaway there is Justin Herbert looked really, really good. If he can run the ball like that, if they're going to allow him to run the ball, he is going to smash this year. I kind of already thought he was going to smash this year when they got a little help with the wide receivers. But yeah, I think he is going to smash this year. And then also big bummer for the Chiefs losing Worthy. We haven't really heard yet on how many weeks he'll be out. I definitely feel like he'll be out next week and probably the week after. But yeah, you probably want Hollywood Brown there. And Kelsey is washed.
Yeah, Kelsey basically he became relevant because the defense just forgot to cover him on a play because he was so much of just like a decoy, not a factor. They rather would focus on Kareem Hunt out of the backfield, which is pretty telling.
Yep.
Yeah. Quentin Johnston's, I'm not buying that hype. I think he was still third on the team in targets, and they probably throw the ball way more this last game than they probably will most games this season. So, not buying that. And if someone gives me like a 2 and a 3, I'm probably shipping them off too. Like yeah.
Anyways. So, and then one last thing, Trey Harris, unfortunately, he played behind. I'm gonna butcher his name, but KLS. Unfortunately, that's not good. Yeah, that's not good to see, but I think it's gonna change. I think Trey Harris is more of kind of a long game play because I don't think Keenan Allen's gonna be there. Outside of this year. So I think he's going to learn a lot from Keenan. So I'm hoping, Trey Harris is a good player. So I'm just hoping he'll slowly get into the mix there. But something to watch. But again, most of the time you probably got him in the second. So, if he doesn't pan out, so be it. You didn't really spend too much on him.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't play a ton, and it's week 1. He played 5 snaps. He got 1 target. He got that target for a first down, which was nice. So, yep. I mean, just be patient with him, right? Like, we'll see what he does, but he's gonna need a little bit of time. He was kind of more of like a I won't say like a raw prospect, but like he needed to work on some route running and some things. Like he's going to need a little bit of time. I think he'll look a lot better at the end of the year than he did now, especially as Keenan Allen. Like he might kind of like fade as like the veteran throughout the season, right? And the rookies kind of take over. So just be patient with Trey Harris, and I'd still try to buy him. Honestly, if you could try to get him for like maybe like a late 2, because that was like he was probably going like early 2. If you get him like a late 2 or maybe like 2 3s, or maybe like a 2 and a player or a 3 and a player, might be worth exploring because I think I still think he's good. He's going to take a minute, but
yeah. So I would say any rebuilder or whatever, if you can move him for any kind of productive player, I would do it because I think in the long run he is a good player. And right now there's quite a bit of wide receivers. Like I said, I don't trust Quentin Johnston. He still had a couple really big drops, kind of got propped up by those 2 touchdowns. And then Keenan Allen, I don't expect him to be there after this year. So Trey Harris, go out and get him on your rebuilders.
I like it. All righty. Well, that's all we got for this week. We'll have another show kind of previewing week 2, and then hopefully we'll do some more reactions and kind of break it up that way and get you with a couple episodes a week and get you ready through the fantasy season and hopefully to some playoffs and some championships. Let's will catch y'all on the next one. Peace out.
Peace.